did my desire to become Catholic impact my desire to go into education? I almost think that these desires kind of started to grow both at the same time. When I went to college, my initial desire was to go into law. I thought I kind of wanted to bring about, like go into law, kind of maybe establish myself, maybe get into politics. I don't know. I felt the need to kind of bring change. I wanted to impact others, and that made sense to me. And growing up, I came from a politically informed family. Like, we stayed on top of the news, etc. We talk about the political issues of the day, etc. So I was really that's why I was drawn to that. But while I was in college, I think seeing what college is like, what a teacher in the college world is like, seeing what some of my friends were choosing, that I had one really close friend. I always call him the older brother I never had, because I'm the oldest in my family, and he was a year ahead of me. And so when I was a freshman, he was a sophomore, and he had decided, he was getting ready to be a history professor. That was like his goal. I was starting to get this new call, like, oh, I'd never thought about like being an educator, being a teacher. It's funny too, because my mom would often say to me, Michael, you make a great teacher, growing up, but I never thought about that as like a serious profession I'd want to pursue. But now this was kind of opening up in a new way. And I was also beginning to appreciate how the cultural aspect of things, into college, I thought about the political side of things, but I was starting to see that politics is often shaped by the cultural changes and how people's hearts feel. And that starts in education and what they're listening to and what they're hearing and what they're reading. And so I was starting to be drawn to that way of, I hate to use the word influencer, but influencing others, being an influencer. But I think that desire was also happening around at the same time as I was starting to realize that I didn't. There was another understanding of Christianity, a larger one, a better one, a bigger one, that I hadn't really ever given never considered before, and suddenly I was being exposed to at the same time, and was, year by year, month by month, being drawn to. So yeah, I'd never thought about the fact that both of these desires kind of were happening at the same time. In some ways, maybe independently of each other, but also in other ways, like they were, I think, feeding each other. I've started working in classical schools immediately after I finished graduate school. So I got my undergraduate, and I did 2 years of graduate school in classics. That was what my focus was on. My initial desire was I was in a doctoral program, but after getting my master's, I kind of wanted to pull away from I didn't appreciate the specialization that happens in the world of, graduate programs. And then with a classics degree, I didn't like the idea of creating a whole, couple 100-word dissertation, just focusing on, 10 words and how they relate to, I don't know. I didn't like the direction I was probably going to be asked to do. And I wanted to let's talk about these ideas and let's expose them to more people. And so my first job after graduate school was teaching at a Catholic classical school in New Hampshire. And yeah, that was immediately, I was drawn to this world of how not only talking about the fullness of the faith, but then how can we root that in kind of a larger understanding of who man is, and from this kind of classical perspective, and returning to using the language of like human nature and natural law, and then the principle of the virtues, and that this provides like an important basis to be able to be able to talk about truth in a new way, or in an old way, but in this kind of richer way. I would definitely say that I see that my desire for tradition, or in my recognition that I needed tradition in my faith, and which was drawing me to the Catholic faith, definitely coincides with this desire for a traditional approach to education and traditional, like seeing that education needs to be rooted in, I've loved the word tradition because, especially based on its Latin roots, it has this idea of passing on, handing on. Trado means to give over. And so I love that image, both from the spiritual perspective, or the religious perspective, the Christian perspective of this faith has been passed on from one person to the next, and then especially, you like couple that with the whole idea of apostolic succession, and that authority is passed down literally, and you put your hands on the next person and you give them that authority. But then I think that same idea has definitely informed what I value, what I would expect a good education to look like. Whether that's, that it should be this kind of passing down of wisdom. I just recently finished reading The Abolition of Man, and he, spends all this time. What I love about it is he's talking about the idea of moral law, or as he always refers to, the Tao, and just kind of reason, the use of natural reason and practical reason. But he is recognizing that this is just kind of something you're in and you continue to pass out. And if you try to step outside of it and reinvent it, like, you'll have no compass. You'll have no basis by which you can say there is what X is better than Y. But once you kind of step into that and recognize that I have something I can learn from my elders from generations past, and now it's then my responsibility to pass it on. I don't know, that image is so, it really resonates with me.